Hello lovelies, my name is Eric and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to be talking about wand books. These are just a couple of wand books that I have here. These are the only ones that I've read so far, but I'm going to try to read more. But I want to talk about these books, the issue that a lot of them face, or the issues that a lot of them have, and just sort of like a review of each of the books, and sort of, yeah, just my thoughts on them, really. Before I get into the topic of the video though, I do just want to address the civil rights movement that's currently across the globe. If you'd like to hear my thoughts on that further, I have made a statement on my Facebook page as a text post, and I have also done a video for the Pagan Perspective exploring my thoughts and feelings on the situation. So if you're interested in that, I will leave a link to both of those below. Rather than regurgitate what I've already said on this channel as well, I'll leave those there. But I didn't want it to go unsaid either, of course. So, with that said, let's talk about some Wandlore books. So the first two are written by the same author. This is The Witch's Wand and Wandlore by Alfieri, Gwydion MacLear. I feel like I've talked about this book before. I feel like I've talked about wand books a few times on this channel maybe as well. Alfieri and Gwydion, these two books are probably the ones I enjoyed the most. This one was cool. It was nice to look into another wand maker's process and what tools they use and how they approach it and all that sort of thing. Though if I'm honest, in a modern world, Kyvox, Ender Kyvox, whatever his name is, he's a Harry Potter fan and he makes wands and he does a wonderful, wonderful job. But he has a lot of videos on his YouTube channel about how he goes about making them, and he uses a lot of modern tools like Dremels and things like that. So he's got a lot of really cool resources there if you're looking at power tools and wanting to learn about that. But this, just to see into another wand maker's process was really cool. That said, on the topic of Harry fucking Potter, this is something these books suffer from a heap, and a lot of wand books tend to, is this whole idea of cause of a magical creature. There's no sort of historical basis for this, and I'm just not interested in hearing about it anymore. So if we could just stop perpetuating that whole concept, that would be awesome. I've said this on Instagram, and I'll say it here as well, Wandlore is already, an ancient, magical, sacred practice. You don't need to make shit up to validate it. It's already fine. If it's real, it can take the pressure. So that's the biggest fault that I have of these. Of course, I understand that when we're talking about wands in the modern day, it's very hard to do that without touching on the topic of Harry Potter, because it's so influenced the cultural zeitgeist and how we think of wands, what we think of them, and how we think of what they do, what they look like. All of those things are so influenced by that franchise. Even the wands that I craft are definitely inspired by the aesthetic that we see in those films. So I don't think that I don't think we should shy away from that conversation. I think it's one worth having. But I also don't think that we should make shit up and try to stage it as some sort of ancient practice, which it's just not. So that really bothers me about those books. That said, I did enjoy them. I'm not really into that whole pseudo-druidic approach to wands though. The next book, Wanding. Wanding. Oh dear. Okay, so I have a few big issues with this book specifically. The first one has nothing to do with the content of the book. The first one is that every second page is blank. For what? For why? As if this would be such a compelling read that I would need all that space to make notes. That's just so obnoxious, and it's oh, but we want to have a chunky book, and it's not worth it. It's a waste of paper, and it's ridiculous. Even the typeset is hugely spaced, and it's just, there's not a lot of content here. There's no reason that this book couldn't have been a slim volume, and it's purely for aesthetics, and it's just obnoxious. So that really bothered me about this book. Secondly, wand is not a verb. Wand is something that you am, not something that you do. And I will speak about that more when I speak about these books as a whole. And the last book, K.P. Theodore's Wandlore. This book suffers from a similar issue to wanding, in that like I just don't know who said that this could go onto a printing press in this way. The formatting is bad. There's like just the wrong words being used for things. There is like colloquial sentencing, like the color could be cool. Like that's not a sentence you find in a book. Don't use like in that way in a book. It's bad. It's just bad writing. It reads like it was dictated to an iPhone and then just copied into a Word document and sent to the printer. It doesn't seem like it was edited or proofread or anything, and it was just so hard to get through. The other issue that this book faces, that a lot of these books face, is that this is just a lexicon of different trees and what this author thinks they mean. And again, this is very inspired by Harry Potter in the way that they're thinking about wandwoods and the way that they match to personalities, which is strange, because like we don't need some Durf's garbage in our Wandlore. So yeah, I was really unimpressed by that. So here's the other issue that all of these books face. There are roles that the wand plays that these books completely disregard. Now, first and foremost, these books talk about wands as tools, right? There's that very common expression of an extension of the magician and directing the magician's will. And that's fine, right? Like, when we're talking about it from an allegorical, like, symbolic sense, like, that's definitely one way that we can think of the wand. But when we think of it solely in that way, we strip the personhood of the wand. Like, there needs to be that ontological perspective where the wand has a spirit of its own. Alferian sort of gets into this when he talks about the dryad of the tree. But that doesn't really seem to carry across too clearly into the way he talks about wands. So the wand acts as a kind of familiar spirit. So this is like an animistic kind of perspective, right? And I think I've spoken about this before when I've talked about wands on the channel. But the wand is like a familiar spirit that you work with and build a relationship with like any other spirit. But that spirit's main role is as contract manager with your relationships to other spirits. So the wand is sometimes called the key, right? And it's the key that unleashes the full extent of the magician's like power, authority, and all the contracts that they have with the spirits. On that note, if you're interested in a resource like Magical Primer, like if you want to learn about wands and all the other magical tools and things, definitely read Rune Emerson's Nothing But a Pack of Cards, because I find that this is like the most valuable book I own. I keep on turning back to it all the time. On all manner of topics, and it always has wisdom to give me. So I think that this is like the most key resource that you can purchase is Rune Emerson's book. So if you haven't already bought it, like go and buy it. I'll leave a link in the description, man. Like it's worth it. Especially like, oh my gosh, this book, this bloody KP Theatre book. I'm sad that I spent the extra $3 to get it in hardback. Like, ugh. At least maybe now I can use it to hit somebody and actually make use of it. I'm being so, like, judgmental of these books, I know. I'm just passionate. And at least I'm hitting up, right? Like, these guys are published, I'm certainly not. That said, I did go ahead and, like, rage write, like, 12 pages of notes. So expect, like, within the next decade to see a Wandlore book from me. Coming back to that idea of the wand as a person, right? The wand as spirit in and of itself. I'm certain, I can't find any record of this, so if you know of one, if you know of a witch trial that has this noted in it, please let me know. But I'm certain that I've read that there was at least one case where a witch was described to keep her familiar in a piece of wood, like in a branch or a log or something. But I can't, like, now that I'm thinking about it and trying to find it, I can't seem to find it anywhere. But, like, this idea of, like, spirits, like, living in pieces of wood and in wands is, like, something we see historically. So I think that restoring the personhood, and even, like, that animistic perspective, like, in the Solomonic conjuration of the fire, there is that line, you know, I conjure thee, O creature of fire. It is a creature, it's a being, there is a spirit in that fire. Just as there is in the wand, or the candle wax, or whatever, like, all things have spirits in this perspective. And so when we strip away that personhood from the wand, we take away a huge historical, like, meaning and value in the wand. So yeah, wands are people too. And I think that's all I really want to say on this topic. I was a bit heated in this video, but it's all in jest, it's all in fun. I don't hate any of these authors, like, or anything like that. I'm just unimpressed by the general consensus of what wands are and how they're meant to be employed. So with that said, I hope that you're all well, and of course like and subscribe to become a wizard today, and I will speak to you in the next video. Mwah. Bye.